And going back to our white screen right there. Going back to our white screen right there, right? I'm just going to continue on that page where I stopped. The very last topic we discussed was shifting of the demand curve, okay? The shift happens because consumers are making conscious decisions to change their buying habits, not because something happened to the price of the good. Something else changes our decision. That something else we call an outside shock. Okay, if I have less money to spend, it doesn't matter what the price of the good is. I will be restricted on how much I can afford to spend, so I will be spending less. We're talking about income. We talked about preferences, and preferences. I like it, I dislike it. I don't like this ice cream anymore. I move to a different type of ice cream. Okay, that's preferences. We talked about the population side. More pizza eaters, fewer pizza eaters. Okay, we talked about prices of related goods. If you eat popcorn, if and only if when you go want to see a show and there is no movie theater, no popcorn consumption, right? Or if every ticket costs you $50, which is outrageous, again, we're not going to go see a show. It's way too expensive. So no popcorn eating, all right? You see, all these factors I mentioned, they will all make us change our spending habits, not because something has happened to the price of the good in question. So the same, there are factors that will also can make producers change their production pattern, not because something happened to the price of the good they're selling, because there is something else that changes their production level. Okay, so shifting the supply curve. And that shift happens due to a shock factor or a shock or a change in the outside factor. Due to an outside factor. And when we say outside, outside of our picture, price and quantity, outside or non-price factor. Okay. All right. So first, size of the industry. Okay. It's a fancy title for a concept that simply refers to how many pizza places we have in town, if it's a pizza that we're talking about, or how many bakeries we have in town, how many restaurants we have in town. Okay. Price, quantity. Let's stick with pizza. Supply curve. Okay. Size of the industry. So right now we have about 4 pizza places. I'm losing the count of pizzas that are closing, opening, new coming in, 4 or 5, right? And at any price level, right? We have so many pizzas produced and supplied to the market. Let's make it $6.99, $9.99. Of course, that's a different pizzas. Let's say 4 and 8, right? More producers. If we have more pizza places opening doors, we will have more pizzas available at those same prices. See what happens? Okay. More producers of that same good, larger size of the industry. of the industry. And the result, we have the shift of the supply curve to the right. Okay, more producers. Something like that will be expressed the following way if you read a newspaper. New pizza place opened. We have new restaurants are coming to town. Okay, opening new businesses increases the size of the industry, shifting the supply of that specific good to the right, saying there is more of the product produced and available for consumers to buy and consume. Okay. Fewer producers. I don't know if you can read it. Okay, fewer. Fewer producers. We have businesses closing their doors, leaving Macomb, okay? Or closing for, if it's a restaurant, what possible reason we can have for a closure? Some sanitation reasons, right? Fewer producers mean producers are leaving the market, literally, picking up and going away. Smaller size of the industry. What does it mean? That means there will be fewer places offering pizzas, fewer at $6.99, fewer at $9.99. And that will shift the supply curve to the left. Reduction in the size of the industry, okay? Supply curve shifts to the left, okay? A leftward shift always means less, fewer. Rightward shift always means increase, more. Okay. Any questions? No? All right. Number 2. What do we have for number 2? Technological progress. Okay. Technological progress, or also sometimes it's presented to us as a breakthrough in an industry. Breakthrough in an industry. Okay. A better, more efficient pizza ovens, okay, that can bake up to 10 pizzas at a time. Wouldn't that be great? Right. So a technological progress means there is a new equipment available, more efficient. More efficient. Remember PPF, right? When we move from under the frontier to the frontier, we're increasing the efficiency. But sometimes moving the frontier out, that's an equivalent of saying pushing the envelope, right? Moving the frontier out is it also presents itself as an increase in efficiency. Increase in efficiency always reduces the cost of production, always. Always. A technological breakthrough means cheaper production, lower cost. What does it mean to me if I'm a producer? It means higher profit. Remember, we assumed, just for the sake of the argument, that it cost me $3 to make one pizza. With more sophisticated equipment, if I buy that equipment and install, it could cost me $2, right? So now, yeah, I can run that special at $3.99. Before that, it would give me only 99 cents for profit. But now, with lower cost, with more sophisticated equipment, sure, why not? I can sell more pizzas $3.99. People are always hungry for fresh pizza, especially if it's on sale, right? So a technological breakthrough means I'm spending the same money on the production, but the volume of output units I'm producing, number of pizzas, is much larger. Okay? And that means for our picture, that means one thing only, always a shift to the right. More, the same cost, but more units. Supply curve shifts to the right, indicating that yes, as a producer, I am willing to produce more. It doesn't cost me much. It's actually cost me less. Okay? We always look at any shock factor from two perspectives: more, increase, less, or decrease. But with the technological progress, in reality, in real life, there is only one way. Technological progress, when we move forward, keep pushing the technological envelope, operating at a technological frontier, right? Going back, talk about technological regress, is not just impractical, it's the same thing as to tell you, okay, so you know how to turn on your computer, right? You know how to do a term paper in MS Word, right? You know how to log in into Zoom into our lectures. Imagine one day you can wake up and you have forgotten all of it. Well, of course, I'm not talking about mental diseases like Alzheimer or dementia, but on a regular basis, is it possible for us to wake up tomorrow and forget all of it? Forget how to turn on the computer, forget how to use iPad, forget how to write a newspaper, a term paper. No, of course not. Our brain does not regress, does not lose technological knowledge on a day-to-day basis, okay? It does when we talk about diseases, right? But not when we are young and kicking and alive, right? So technically, if we stick to the rules, a technological regress will mean moving backwards to less efficient equipment, to higher cost. If this happens, then the supply curve will shift to the left, okay? But in reality, it doesn't happen. What we learn, every technological bit of information stays with us, okay? Right? Any questions? No? All right. So let's look at the third shock or a shift factor: prices of inputs. Oh, that's an excellent example. Okay, we're going to start with this one when we get to the newspaper cutouts. Prices of inputs. Let me try to write nicely in. There we are. Prices of inputs. Okay, yeah, I gotta warn you. If you see there is a commotion of cats going on, or you see, if you hear some growl, I just gave them both haircuts. One got her haircuts on Friday, the other one yesterday. And of course, the yesterday haircut, the cat smells wrong to the Friday cat. So she is like hissing and growling, God knows what else. It's not like I'm harassing them. They probably will stand it too. Anyway, so prices of inputs. If you hear growling, just ignore it. That's not me. Prices of inputs. Remember, we talked about inputs. In pizza production, an input would be the building you're renting, your utilities, electricity, water, gas, your workers that make those pizzas, flour, tomato sauce, all the toppings. These are all inputs. Input in something you insert into the production process, and what comes out at the end? The whole pizza, ready to eat, its output, okay? And as I said before, you have to pay for inputs. You have to pay for the building, buy it, rent it, or build a new one. You have to turn on the utilities, so there are utility bills to pay. You have to buy the pizza equipment. You have to pay your workers. You have to buy ingredients. Even before you see the very first pizza that comes out the oven, this is how much you have to pay. That's why we talk about startup capital, okay? We have to pay for our inputs, right? So if the price of any input, and the easiest one to deal with and count is labor, okay? Price of labor, you have to pay your workers. If the price of labor increases, and the price of labor is a fancy name for wages, okay? If the price of labor increases, remember we just said it cost us $3 to make a pizza? That $3 are not going to be $3 anymore. The $3 are based on the old wages. With higher wages, the $3 will probably going to turn into $3.50 or $4. See what happens? The cost of production increases. Cost of production increases. Let's say for a moment, you can't change the price you sell your pizza for. That price, that number is fixed, it's not changing, okay? So here's your $6.99, here is your original $3 before you had to start paying higher wages. $3, $6.99, by making pizza at $3, selling it at $6.99, you're making $3.99 in profit. But as you start paying higher wages to your workers, your cost increases to $4. $6.99 stays the same. With $6.99 selling price and $4 as a cost, you're down to only $2.99 as a profit. Paying more to your workers, you just increased the cost of production and reduced your profit. Okay. Now remember, okay, we said the only reason we have producers out there, businesses making stuff and selling them is because they're collecting their profit. If the profit drops, okay, due to higher costs, they're going to cut on production because it's no longer profitable for them. And in this case, quantity, price. Here is our original supply when we paid the old wages. Now with new wages, higher wages. Okay. We see a leftward shift of the supply curve. Supply curve shifts to the left. Okay. Let me go back. Okay. Here. Right? Let's make it 10. Right? So at $6.99 at the old cost, you were making almost $4 in profit. With new higher cost, because you're paying higher wages, your profit is down to $2.99. Okay? All right? You don't like that. You don't like that at all. So you're making fewer pizzas. Okay? And we see a leftward shift of the supply curve. Okay? Ooh. Now let's look at the opposite case. Price of labor drops. Okay? Back to our $3 pizza. If you have to pay lower wages to your workers, your cost of production drops. Cost of production drops, okay, from $3 to $2. And at the same price that you sell your pizza for $6.99 with the cost $2, you're making almost $5 profit, $4.99. Isn't it great or isn't it great? Right? Profit increases. Okay. How it's going to make me feel as a producer? Oh, I'll be happy. I'll make 15 pizza to offer them at $6.99. See what happens? okay? As cost of my production drops, at the same fixed price, $6.99, I'm making more money in profit. Of course, I would want to make more. I'll make more pizzas. And that make more pizzas means a rightward shift of the supply curve. Supply curve shifts to the right, okay? We're going to revisit price of labor when we have a complete diagram, because this is what all the commotion in the Congress right now, right? Minimum wage up to $15 from $7.25 or $7.95. Anyway, almost double, okay? We'll revisit this. This is an excellent example for us to understand why some people are against it, okay? Right. So far, any questions? Okay, so look what we said, prices of inputs, and I used labor as one input, as an example. But the price, if the changes like that happens to electricity, higher or lower, the result will be the same. If we have a higher price for oil or gas, the result is going to be the same. So it doesn't matter what I put under the subscript for price, labor, electricity, land, right? If we're renting a land, gas, flour, cereal, anything that goes into the production and called an input will be addressed. Its price change will be addressed in this component of the lecture. Okay, right? So let's look at the last, excuse me, at the last factor, shock or shift factor, prices of related outputs. Prices of related outputs. Related outputs. The easiest example, if I take you back to our farm example with butter and milk, right? Related outputs come from the same cow, right? With a little bit different labor structure involved. Okay. Remember how we started that conversation? We had a young farmer using all the equipment to produce, to make butter. Why? Because butter is more expensive. Okay. Supply for milk, supply for butter. Right? So we're looking at related outputs. We all know that a pound of butter, a brick, right, cost about $5. Okay, right? Whereas a gallon of milk is a giant jug. I don't know, what is it, $2, $3? Well, depending on whether it's skim, plain water, right? So butter being more expensive. Remember the story? The farmer said, who needs milk? Butter is more expensive. If I make more butter and sell it, I'll pay for the mortgage on the farm faster. I'll be richer faster. I want to produce more expensive good because it's more expensive to make more money. So I'm shifting away from milk production into butter production. I will make more units of butter because it's more expensive, and less, if any, units of milk because it's less expensive. Prices. Okay. There we go. Okay. Make more butter. Because it is more expensive, and make less milk because it is less expensive. Okay. So if I'm producing two or several goods, okay, I'm more interested in producing more expensive good than less expensive good, simply because I'm going to make more money faster. All right. So for the supply curve, the shock or shift factors, size of the industry, prices of inputs, technological progress, and prices of related outputs. All right. Any questions? No? All right. All right. So what we have today, okay, here, between price and quantity, we have the demand curve that represents consumers' preferences. Between the price and quantity, we have a supply curve, okay? Price of a good, quantity of a good. The two curves representing the two major forces of an economy, okay? Dealing with the same variables, price of a single unit, quantity of units, demanded or supplied. So given that these two major forces operate on the same platform, what we can do is we can merge the two pictures, price of a single unit, quantity, an upward sloping supply curve and downward sloping demand curve. Okay, remember in chapter 1, we said the prices are set through the law of demand and supply. Okay, so we're going to see how this law works in person. So the supply represents producers and their preferences. The higher the price, the more units of the good they will be willing to produce. As price increases, quantity supplied increases. As price decreases, quantity supplied decreases. Therefore, the line that represents producers has a positive slope because there is a positive relationship between prices and quantity supplied. The demand curve represents consumers. Okay. For us, the lower the price, the cheaper the good. As price decreases, the happier we're going to be. The more units of the good we will be willing to buy and consume. As price increases, on the other hand, we're not as happy as before. As a matter of fact, we won't even be interested in buying a single unit, and quantity demanded drops. Okay, you see, for consumers, prices and quantities are moving in the opposite direction, presenting a negative relationship. Therefore, the curve has a negative slope. Okay, so I said before that, remember we're talking about pizza, and I said it would have been magical to sell every single pizza at $20 a piece, right? If it cost me $3 to make one and I could sell it at 20, my God, I would be making $17 of clean profit per pizza. The question is, who is going to buy those pizzas at $20, right? So here we have producers and consumers with completely opposite preferences. What do they do in this picture? They're negotiating the price. Okay? Look at this very special magical point, the point where the two curves intersect each other. Okay? This point corresponds to a very special price that we're going to denote by P star. Okay, here, let me use the magic of the whiteboard. Don't muddy up your pretty pictures, okay? Ooh, that's not what I meant. Okay, you see this special point that corresponds to P prime, to P star, belongs to the demand curve, right? Oh, okay, again, not exactly what I meant. Also, as I erase a part of the demand curve, do you see that special point that corresponds to P star also belongs to the supply curve? What does it mean? The point where the two lines intersect each other, that special point belongs to both supply and demand, producers and consumers. At P star, this is how many units we consumers will be willing to buy and consume at P star, this is how many units producers will be willing to produce and supply. Okay, right? You see the two red ones and blue and green ones correspond to the same distance from the origin, the same distance. That means at P star, quantity demanded is matched by quantity supplied. What does it mean? That means the number of units of the good producers will be willing to take at the market and sell at P star. All of those units will be bought by consumers. There will be no extra units left unwanted. There will be no consumers walking home empty-handed, okay? Because there was not enough of the units of the good. At P star, at that magical price level, number of units demanded is matched by number of units supplied, and the market is clearing, okay? The market for whatever good clears, okay? Quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. For example, 25 pizzas were produced and 25 pizzas were bought and consumed. No leftovers. We're all gonna go home happy. At P star, quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. At P star, consumers and producers both are happy. And consumers. Both of them. Remember how different our preferences are? Remember? There. That's why that price level P star is so magical, because at this level, producers meet consumers and we both walk home empty. Market clears. There are no extra units of the good left on shelves unwanted. And every single consumer who wanna buy this good bought it and went home happy, okay? So this magical point, the point of intersection of the demand and supply, is called the equilibrium point. Oh, equilibrium point, okay? And we'll say at the equilibrium, at the equilibrium. Every time I say that, what I want you to see in your mind is this picture where the demand and supply intersect each other. At the equilibrium, quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. And price that is charged is P star. And this quantity is called equilibrium quantity. And the P star is called equilibrium price. Equilibrium price, excuse me. Okay, all right. So when a good is priced at P star level, all of it will be bought and consumed, okay, by consumers. That's the magic of a P star, okay? All right. Now, unfortunately, this is what it means when we say the price is determined by the demand and supply, okay? The price is determined by the demand curve, and supply curve is determined through finding the equilibrium point and finding the corresponding price corresponding to the equilibrium point, okay? This is what people mean by they say, this good was priced by the market. That means by demand and supply. Sometimes though, the equilibrium price is not acceptable to different power holding authorities, let me put it this way, okay? And what happens then? The government steps in and introduces either price flooring or price ceiling, okay? Let's look at those two, okay? Price flooring and price ceiling. Okay. There we go. Okay. Price flooring. Okay, price flooring. Let's use agricultural goods. Those 3-pound potato bags, right? Quantity and price. 3-pound. Okay. Right. So we have supply, right? Demand for those potatoes. We have the equilibrium point and the equilibrium price. I'm making up stuff. That is $1. The price for the 3-pound potato bags is $1 as determined by the supply and demand. Okay? But the government says, wait a minute. If we sell those bags at $1, farmers who are growing and supplying these potatoes won't even cover their costs. No. We cannot afford that. Okay, no. We're going to floor the price. We're going to floor the price at $3 a bag. Okay? What does it mean, floor the price? Put it at a level above the equilibrium. Keep it from falling down. Okay? What happens to the market? Well, let's draw a horizontal line that starts at the $3 and see where that line crosses the demand and the supply. Okay? This distance is how many of those bags we consumers will be willing to buy and consume. This distance is how many of those bags producers, farmers will be willing to supply to the local market. Okay, see the difference? This is number of bags we will buy. This is number of bags will be supplied to the market. Clearly, quantity demanded, let me get back to red, at P, and I called it prime because I cannot call it a star. The star refers only to the equilibrium. At $3 a bag, we will have quantity demanded way below quantity supplied. What does it mean? There will be extra bags left, sitting on the shelf, rotting away, right? Ever ask yourself, what's with all this produce? Look at this greenish stuff that's rotting away. Why is nobody buying them? Here is your answer, because they're overpriced, okay? Excess supply. When you see that number of quantity supplied exceeds or larger than quantity demanded, we have excess supply, we have extra units that nobody wants to buy at that price. This is how market strikes back. Okay, you want to impose a price that is above the equilibrium, you're going to end up with extra units that nobody wants to buy. Okay, right? Now let's talk about price ceiling. Quantity, price, supply, demand. Let's talk about rent control. In New York City, right? I'm going to make up the numbers, okay? A studio apartment in New York City. The equilibrium price of this apartment is 2,500. Can you see the 25? I could barely see that. There we go. 2,500, equilibrium price. But the government says, no, wait a minute. Who usually rents studios? People who are students, low income? No. We need to take care of those people, okay? We're gonna do price ceiling. We're gonna keep price from rising way up high. We're gonna say whoever owns the studio may not rent them at any price above 1,500. I'm going to use a double prime. Okay. All right. So the equilibrium price for a studio apartment in New York City, 2,500. The government steps in and imposes a lower price in hopes of helping the population, low-income population. Okay. How would market react to that? Let's draw a completely horizontal line through the entire graph starting at 1,500 and see what happens. See where that line hits supply. This is quantity supplied, and this is quantity demanded. Okay. At P double prime, which is 1,500, what we have is the complete opposite from the price flooring. Quantity demanded exceeds quantity supplied. Okay. This is how many apartments will be available at 1,500. This is how many apartments will be wanted to rent. When quantity demanded exceeds quantity supplied, we have excess demand, or we will have some people who would want to rent a studio at 1,500 but won't find any at that price. Okay, let's say, and I'm going to make up numbers just to illustrate. When quantity demanded exceeds quantity supplied, it means there is a 500 apartment demanded, but only 100 is available, right? The price ceiling creates a shortage, okay? A shortage of the good. And what happens when there is artificially shortage created? Okay. It's a breeding grounds for underground or black market, right? Right? Every time we are prohibited by the government to buy quantities we like, we have to find ways to do so, right? Now, first, let's understand why at 1,500 there will be so fewer apartments available. Well, let's say I am a landlord, okay? I have 2 apartments, they're both studios. I know that their market price is 2,500. But if I can't rent them out at 15, I'm not going to rent them out at all. Okay, if I'm renting my apartments out to people who can't afford to pay 2,500, what are the chances they're going to ruin my entire apartments, both of them? Okay, and then it's going to cost me even more to maintain. No, forget it. I'd rather not rent it at all. You see what happens? One way, not renting out. Second way, if I have renters that I trust, or at least that look respectable, I'm going to tell them, here's the deal. You're going to write me a check and we're going to make an arrangement. You sign the lease at 1,500, but every month you'll have to pay me 1,000 in cash on top if you want to live in this apartment. And what do you think people are going to do? They're going to do it. Yeah. Or they're going to say, listen, I'll pay you 2,500 in cash with no paper trail. Right? So as you can see, through price flooring and price ceiling, all the government is trying to do is help out farmers or help out lower income individuals to get a nice living quarters. But in both cases, the market strikes back because the price charged is not the equilibrium price. Okay? Only at the equilibrium price, only at P star, the market clears, and both producers and consumers are happy. Okay, in our case, in price flooring, we have producers who are not happy because they can't sell everything. In price ceiling, we have consumers who are not happy. They can't find enough of studio apartments for them. Okay. Okay. Any questions? No? All right. So now that we have a complete demand and supply diagram, we can look at some paper cutouts and see how we can apply these concepts and understand how the economy works. And the first example, as I promised, right? That's the current conversation in Congress and the Senate, a fight for an increase in minimum wage. I think it's $7.25. Okay? From $7.25, even if it's at $7.95, you get the picture, right? An increase in minimum wage, from $7.25 to $15 an hour. What could be better? Why are people fighting about it? Let's get our demand and supply. A complete diagram now, okay? Quantity, price. Okay, so let's use the demand and supply for pizzas. Okay. Supply, demand. Okay. What we always do before anything else happens, okay, when we draw the demand and supply, we find the equilibrium point. Then we find corresponding to the equilibrium point P star, which is equilibrium price, and corresponding to the point Q star, which is the equilibrium quantity. At this price, that many pizzas will be supplied and consumed. Will be supplied and consumed. And charging P star means all the pizzas made will be sold. Okay, great. Now, let's say the law of higher minimum wage from $7.25 to $15 passes, okay, which is great. I'm all for, okay. Working for $7 an hour is ridiculous, $7.25, yes. So the minimum wage is that wage we talked about an example when we talked about prices of inputs. This is how you should think. When I throw you a newspaper cutout, you should ask yourself, which one of the 4 demand and 4 supply shock factors this specific factor is related to? An increase in minimum wage takes us to a higher wage or higher price of labor. That's what it means. Price of labor increases. Okay. Okay. Now, please turn your mics back on. Let's discuss it. Tell me what happens, first of all. Oh, that's the wrong one. Labor. So price of labor increases. Okay, it's a shift factor. I'm helping you out. Now, turn back your mics on. Let's discuss this. Which curve, demand or supply, this factor will shift?
Supply curve.
Supply curve, very good. Very good. Which way? To the right or to the left?
To the left.
To the left. Excellent. We'll have the supply curve shifts to the left. Remember why?
The cost of production increases.
Excellent. Excellent. Reducing the profit, right? And profit is all I live for. So if my profit shrinks, heck, I don't want to produce as many units as before. Let's do the leftward shift for a supply curve. There we are. From S sub 1 to from S sub 0, right there. From S sub 0 to S sub 1. The supply curve shifts to the left. Okay? Now, do not muddy up your pretty pictures. When the supply shifts and takes a new position, the old one is no longer there. Same, right? Oh, that's not what I meant. Whoa, okay. Minimum, wage, right there, yeah, right? Now, what did we say? The good is always priced at its equilibrium price, but as supply is gone, how do we find the equilibrium price? From the intersection of the demand and supply. So if supply shifts, our equilibrium point is going to follow that shift. Okay, so we will arrive at a new equilibrium point. The old supply curve is gone. Here is our new equilibrium point. That new equilibrium point comes with a new equilibrium price and the new equilibrium quantity. New equilibrium point. Okay. The new equilibrium point comes with a higher equilibrium price and a lower equilibrium quantity. Okay. What does it mean to us? Well, remember, this is what we're paying for the pizzas. An increase in equilibrium price means we'll have to pay higher prices for everything because the minimum wage is the base for all the rest of the wages. If the minimum wage goes up, so will the rest of the wages. Every single unit of labor will become more expensive. Every single cost of production of every single good increases, pushing the price up through the left shift of the supply curve. Okay, so first outcome, painful one, right? Higher prices means we need to furnish more money to buy the same physical volume of goods and services. Okay, here an example. Let's say you buy 10 gallons of gas. Before, let's say you paid $2.50 per gallon. So you need to have $25 in your pocket to buy 10 gallons of gas. What if the price shifts up to $3.50? With $25 in your pocket, you won't be able to buy the same 10 gallons of gas. You see what happens? As price increases, it pushes us to spend more. Okay, so first, look where we're heading. We're getting paid more because the minimum wages went up. But as we enter, why the heck we're working? So we can earn money, so we can spend. But if we walk into a store and see higher prices, our extra earnings will be taken away from us right there in the store. Okay? We're getting paid more, we're spending more. What is the gain? One side. Second side. Look at this outcome. As the supply curve shifts to the left, and we get to a new equilibrium point that is located to the left of the original, the quantity demanded, the quantity supplied to the market drops. Right there. There will be fewer units produced and delivered to the market. So first, there will be fewer units available, fewer pizzas available, and every one of them will be more expensive. I don't like that. Personally, as a consumer, I do not like that at all. Remember our preferences. We like lower prices. But that's not going to be the case with the higher minimum wage. But the most troublesome is the outcome with quantity. If quantity drops, some workers are going to lose their jobs. Okay, because if original Q star meant 25 pizzas, the new one may make the new one correspond to 19 pizzas. I don't need 5 or 6 workers in my pizza place. 4 or 3 will do. See what I'm saying? Drop in quantity because it comes from a new equilibrium will mean people are going to lose jobs. Okay? So if you were reading through the newspapers, I just read something yesterday, I think CNN, or just watching the news. They said that an increase in minimum wage to $15 an hour will cost us 1.4 million jobs. That's where it's coming from, okay? The drop in production because of higher cost will release some of the workers from their workplaces, okay? I think the article was about 900,000 people will get help, okay, through high wages, but 1.4 million will lose their jobs, okay? So I'm not advocating against increase the minimum wage. No, please, of course, people need to work for livable wage. But I'm just saying, be prepared. This is exactly what's going to happen, okay? Higher prices and higher unemployment rate, okay? All right, any questions? This is a very controversial question. I'm glad we get to the point where I can discuss it. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes.
What do you think would happen? So we're talking about like this, everything like that. So how would that increase in minimum wage change over a 5 to 10 year span in terms of
That's a very good question. Yes, excellent question. We should not concentrate on today only. We tend to because we live today, but you're right. A longer term is more important. So what happens is this, okay? We're gonna get used to higher prices. The people who lost their jobs due to an increase in minimum wage will have to find different jobs. That's where I think the government should be looking at the different programs, requalification, right? Make offices like in other developed countries. There is a safety net, social safety net, where offices, where people are working and trying to help relocate workers who just lost their jobs, not just paying social security, right? Money, just saying, okay, listen, you can take a couple of courses and update your skills, and therefore you can apply later for these jobs because you're unemployed. These courses are free for you, okay? So this 1.4 million people will, and I think you're right, thinking of 5 years. At the end of this 5-year period, this incorporation of higher minimum wage will reach its results, okay? Where we'll get used to the fact that prices are higher, but people on the street will have to find a way to update their skills. There is no other way, okay? I'm not sure if I answered your question, but it's a very, very good question. And I think the government should also be looking into this, not just increase the minimum wage, but start thinking how we can find those people who used to work for minimum wage, but now lost their jobs because of the higher cost, right? Is it good enough for now?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's a very good question. Yeah, go ahead. Anybody else? Okay. Why don't we? So we are fully equipped to deal with the complete demand and supply diagram. What we're going to do on Thursday, I'm going to bring more cutouts or read more newspapers where we can do a complete analysis with the complete demand and supply and see, there we go, see how we can understand. Because the article that I read in CNN, it really does not explain anything. It just says, well, yeah, high minimum wage is going to cut 1.4 million jobs. Huh? How did that going to, that's how it's going to happen. Okay. I'm really happy I can bring this understanding to you in class. And that's the beauty of understanding how demand and supply works. So we're going to spend Thursday on cutouts and some other fun stuff. Okay. But for now, we're going to stop. All right.